Hello and welcome, dear friends. This is Lit eCity, the YouTube channel of your choice that helps you in preparation for exams like NTA NET in English. Dear friends, in today's video, we have brought some 10 important Indian English novels. These novels are very important from examination point of view and they all are trendsetters. So we will start our video with the discussion of our first novel all about H. Hatter, which was first published in 1948. Dear friend, it is one of those novels which inspired later writers including Amitav Ghosh and even Salman Rushdie. It is written by G.V. Desani and actually H. Hatter is, as Desani himself points out, a 50-50. He is a 50-50 of the species born in colonial Malaysia of an English father and an Oriental mother. H in his name initially stands for Hindustani Wala. He is orphaned young and is raised by the English Missionary Society in India. When he is expelled from an English gentleman's club due to various offenses like doing some insult to the maid, he decides to go completely Indian and sets out into the country in search of a philosophical quest for truth. To fulfill his inner urge, he meets 7 sages from 7 cities, but all his meetings turned farce and fruitless. All these saints are basically, they are sort of, we can say, frauds, and they basically every time he is humiliated, like he has to basically undress and all these things. In each section, he presents his learning, what he learned from them, along with discussion with his friend and semi-disciple Banerjee. Hatter attempts to understand the meaning of life, and later in the end he realizes that it is futile to understand the meaning of life through the teachings of sages. Now, this novel, though it is written in such a very simple plot, it is known for, we can say, a very radicalized use of English language. There are basically terms taken from different Indian languages, and there are new coinages. That is why Anthony Burgess, in one of his prefaces, which he wrote for the novel, he says, it is the language that makes the book. It is not pure English. It is like Shakespeare, Joyce and Kipling, gloriously impure. This is what even Salman Rushdie has pointed about, the same thing about the novel. Okay, second work which we will discuss today is Music for Mohini, first published in 1964 and written by Bhavani Bhattacharya. It is a story of Mohini, a young educated woman with liberal mindset who lives in a city with her father, grandmother and brother. Her father, who is a university professor, he supports her radical and progressive ideas, but they are not acceptable to her orthodox grandmother, who always tries to put these traditional beliefs in her life. Mohini, she has a training for singing and she is a good singer. She gets a contract to sing for All India Radio once a week. Soon after her school education, Mohini is married to a well-educated man, Jayadev. He himself has very progressive ideas, but though he is a great scholar, he is master and he is resident of Behula village. Now for Mohini, who is a city-bred girl, the big house in the village is contrary to her expectations, but she somehow tries to adjust herself to the new environment. Her mother-in-law, who is a traditional woman and feels proud of her family tree, and she constantly advises Mohini about traditional things and not to be too modern, like not to wear sleeveless blouses, like to wear cotton saris, or not to wear glass bangles, sing only religious songs. Mohini tries to cope with all this because of the constant support of her husband. But her pain is that she is not able to conceive a child. Jayadev's mother, she tries to make Mohini offer her heart's blood to the virgin goddess so that she can get rid of her barrenness. Jayadev sternly opposes this and supports Mohini. After a few days, the mother comes to know from Harendra, who is a family friend, who is a friend of Jayadev. He and Jayadev, they try to bring some awareness among the villagers. Harendra tells Mohini's mother-in-law that now Mohini is pregnant. Mohini's mother-in-law realizes it is the age of the young men and women and their new ideals and aspiration. Mohini, on the other hand, also comes to realize the warmth and affection beneath all the orthodox ideas of her mother-in-law. So basically, Bhavani Bhattacharya presents a very, we can say, important picture of new India where tradition and modernity, they were having clash with each other and a new society is on the brink of emergence. Our next work is A Band in the Ganges, first published in 1964 and written by Manohar Malgaonkar. The epigraph of the novel is from the Ramayana. At a band in the Ganges, they paused to take a look at the land they were leaving. This is basically the episode when Sri Ram and Lakshman and Sita, they were about to go into the exile. Now this novel is set during the period of national independence movement and the subsequent partition. The story moves around three major characters, Gyan Talwar, Devi Dayal and Sundari. Gyan, who is a poor and a very coward-minded or a diffident man, he lacks confidence and conviction and he blindly follows Gandhian philosophy of non-violence. But in a spur of a moment, he kills Vishnu Dutt to avenge his brother's death, and because of this crime, he is transported to the Andamans. That was, we can say, the prison where the dangerous Indians were kept. Devi Dayal, on the other hand, is a member of Hanuman Club. It is a freedom fighters club, an organization of devoted terrorists. He is betrayed by his Muslim leader, by his Muslim friend, and he is also transported to the Andamans. Later, the Japanese occupy the Andamans and both they are reach India again. Devi Dayal, he is in hiding, waiting for an opportunity to come out. Gyan, on the other hand, is employed at Kerwad Construction Company. The owner is Mr. Tekchand, who is very kindly towards Gyan. He gets involved in a love affair with Sundari, who was earlier his friend, but now she is married to Gopal Chandidhar, but their marriage is almost a failure. Devi Dayal and Sundari, when they decide to go to Duryapad, and Gyan, on hearing that there are some communal atrocities committed there, he also arrived there in the later Pakistan to help the Karwads. Caught in the communal frenzy, they become the victims of the partition. On the day of Indian independence, Gyan is tossed into independent India along with Sundari, while Devi Dayal is killed by the Muslim fanatics for being a devotee Hindu. So basically, this particular novel by Manohar Malgaonkar is a critique of Gandhian philosophy of non-violence. The next work we will discuss is The Strange Case of Billy Biswas. It was first published in 1971 and it is written by Arun Joshi. Billy Bimal Biswas is the son of a judge in Supreme Court and he has a very good education. He does his PhD in anthropology from US, becomes a lecturer at Delhi University. While in US, he begins to feel restless. He begins to feel, we can say, the anxiety of being or the existential crisis. Tuala Lindgren, who is a Swedish student, and Romy, an Indian. They are only two persons who understand the dilemma of Billy's life. Billy marries an aristocratic convent-educated girl, Meena, but Meena fails to understand him. They quarrel quite often. Billy is totally fed up with the superficialities of a grossly materialistic and sterile Indian society, the elite, aristocratic, and official class. Once he takes his students on an anthropological expedition to the tribal areas of Satpura Hill in Madhya Pradesh. There he is enamored by the idyllic surroundings and the very simple folk, very simple inhabitant. He spends a lot of time with them. He feels that his soul also responds to the voice of the hills, forests, untamed nature, and the tribal people. He responds to the call, and on the second day of his expedition, Billy disappeared from the face of the earth, simply vanished into the sal forests of the Maikala hills. So once again, Arun Joshi is known for philosophical novels. This novel also present is like a Bildungs Roman, a man coming into the age, not only outwardly but inwardly also. Rich Like Us, first published in 1985, is a very controversial and popular, critically acclaimed work by Nayantara Sehgal. It is winner of 1986 Sahitya Akademi Award, and it traces the impact of the emergency which was imposed by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and the social tension created by it. It is set in the period of 1932 to 1975. Thus includes both the Indian independence period and its political and social aftermath. Sonali Renade, she is the mouthpiece of the novelist and an Oxford-bred scholar, former civil servant, and she is a stern opponent of the emergency. Like the author in her real life, Nayantara herself, she suffered a kind of humiliation when she was not posted as an ambassador to Italy because of her vociferous protest against the emergency. Sonali is also abruptly dismissed in the favor of her ex-fiancé Ravi Kachru. She befriends Rose. She is the second important character, this lady Rose, who is the second wife of Ram, a Kashmiri businessman who is at present bedridden because of a stroke. His first wife, Mona, she also lives in the same house downstairs with her children, Dave and Nishi. Dave, who is seriously affected by double marriage of his father, he is continuously forging checks to get his father's money on his account. In fact, it is the emergency which gives this corrupt person, Dave, who along with one of his friends set some factories and import some items from outside, and they set up a completely forged company. Rose is unfortunately murdered in the end because she might have proved to be a threat to the male dominance of the family. Sonali, on the other hand, is able to apply her learning to a fresh start. She comes to understand the political reality of the country, but because of her own, we can say, confidence and resources, she is able to have a new beginning. The Golden Gate, first published in 1986, written by the maverick Vikram Seth, is we can say sui generis, a novel of its own kind. It is winner of 1988 Sahitya Akademi Award. It is a verse novel composed of 519 Onegin stanzas. Onegin stanzas is basically, we can say, it was first popularized or used by Alexander Pushkin in his novel Eugene Onegin. It is a kind of sonnet or stanza written in iambic tetrameter, and this novel which is inspired obviously by this novel by Pushkin, this verse novel, poetic novel by Pushkin, it follows the lives of a group of successful yuppie friends. Yuppie is the we can say term used for young American generation of 80s. They were rebellious against the traditional and materialistic outlook. The novel is based in San Francisco in 1980s. Vikram Seth himself has been a part of this revolution, and he has seen these things quite closely. John Brown, the protagonist, is a computer engineer. He wants to be in relationship, and her former girlfriend Janet Hayakawa, who is a sculptor and a drummer in a local music club, she advertises for him in the classified section of the newspaper. John gets many responses, and among these is Liz Doherty, who is a trial lawyer, and their relationship at first is amazing because they are extremely sexually compatible. Liv's brother Ed, he is facing an existential crisis. He is a devout Catholic, but on the other hand, he is a closet gay person. Whenever he had a sexual relationship with another gay person, he feels remorse and guilty because being a Catholic, obviously, he considers it to be a crime. Phil, who is another of John's friend, and he is recently divorced. He is having a good job and he is rearing up his son, but he quits his job because of his particular political ideas. He joins a movement protesting nuclear weapons. Phil and Liz, they meet each other at the engagement party of John and Liz, and they end up in the bed together. So we have these two couples now, John and Liz, Ed and Phil. Soon, however, the honeymoon period of these relationship ends as both couples face irreconcilable problems and difficulties. As Phil realizes that Ed can never overcome the self-hatred for being gay that he feels as a Catholic, and the couple's breakup becomes inevitable because Ed even himself doesn't want to come up against this kind of attitude. Liz and John, they are having more and more argument each day because they have completely different political views. Liz and Phil, because they both share activism, they both share radical ideas, they eventually fall in love and get married. John, on the other hand, once again falls in love with Janet as they had when they were very young. When it seems a happy ending for everyone, Janet is abruptly killed in a car accident. Grieving John is invited by Phil and Liz to be their newborn son's godfather. English August, first published in 1988, written by a civil servant Upmanyu Chatterjee. The subtitle of this debut novel is An Indian Story. Agastya Sen. Agastya is popularly known, the anglicized version of his name is August, and because of his fondness for the language and English attitude, he is also called English. He belongs to an elite family. Unlike his other friends who all went to pursue higher education abroad, he joins Indian Civil Services, and during the training period he is posted as the district collector in the overpopulated village of Madna. He is directionless and finds solace only in marijuana or heroin, masturbation, and reading Marcus Aurelius, the famous Greek philosopher. During the training period, he has to deal with various offices, staying in a government rest house, unhygienic servant Vasant and his family. Bored with dull official life, he exchanges letters with his girlfriend Neera and also with his father. In the second half of the novel, Agastya returns to his uncle's home in Delhi for a Diwali break. He plans to drop his job to work for a publishing firm which is owned by his second cousin Tony. However, his father persuades him to return to Madna and not to forsake civil services. Among other adventures, He is posted as a block development officer in Jampana, which is a tribal area. Initially, he is totally apathetic towards the area. Later on, Agastya discovers certain meanings to his profession and works for the benefit of the people. His meeting with Rao, who is a Naxalite, makes him realize the plight of the tribal and the exploitation they suffer from bureaucrats. The development officer Bajaj talks about tribal's ignorance and points at the fact that mainstream Indian society has not engaged with them since independence in 1947. Though he gets the post of assistant collector, he decides to take 1 year off to discover his true vocation. So basically, the novel, like many of the novel of 80s and 90s, presents the confused youth of India who, at the same time, is want to serve the nation, but also is frustrated by the corruption. That Long Silence, published in 1989, written by the great feminist writer Shashi Deshpande. It is winner of 1990 Sahitya Academy Award. Story of Jaya, a woman who is trapped in a loveless marriage and who in the end breaks the long silence. Mohan, who is the husband of Jaya, faces an inquiry at his office and thus decides to stay away from the office and the flat till the things get normal. He, along with the family, move at the flat at Dadar, which belongs to actually Jaya's maternal uncle. Daya, when he was a young girl, he was encouraged by his father and he used to write articles. But as she grows up, she becomes aware of the fact that people do not like her free expression of individuality, and so she learns to hide it. Now, at Dadar, she is flooded by the memories of the past, her earlier life, her marriage with Mohan, the frustrations and disappointments in her 17 years old married existence. All these begin to haunt and torment her. She begins writing again to supplement the family income. Some of her articles are about her dissatisfaction, including the way in which her husband is unable to connect with her or their children. Jaya's sister Kusum visits Jaya and they discuss her own husband from whom she has recently separated. This makes Jaya realize that her husband also have similar sort of we can say shortcomings. The situation becomes even worse when the couple's son Rahul runs away from home. Eventually, Mohan also leaves the house. Jaya recognizes that the long silence has stifled communication in her family, making it difficult to support her husband and vice versa. Mr. Kamar, an elderly person who lives in the same building, he helps Jaya think through her feelings about herself. The book ends with Mohan sending a telegram to Jaya saying that he will be home soon. Jaya, ready to accept him back, vows that never again will she let the long silence separate them emotionally from each other. The House of Blue Mangoes, first published in 2002, is a very popular novel by David Devidar. David Devidar is actually head of Penguin India, the famous publication house, and he is the man behind the enormous success Penguin enjoys in India. This novel is a saga of 3 generations of Durai family covering the turbulent period of 1899 to 1947. Solomon Durai, who is the headman of a southern village by the sea, is desperately trying to hold together his life at Neelam Illam, his ancestral house, and it is time of huge social and political unease. His sons, first athletic Aaron and second the studious Daniel, after death of their father, go out determined to make their mark on the world. Daniel embarks on a journey rather we can say absurd journey to taste every mango in India to confirm his opinion that his village Chevathar's blue mangoes variety is the best one. He later becomes a successful doctor combining traditional and Western systems of medicine. Aaron joins the freedom struggle movement and his life is lost in it. Daniel's son, Kanan, much to his father's distress, marries an Anglo-Indian woman and leaves Chevathar to help manage an English tea plantation. There, he strives to be accepted by English society, even as he knows they avoid his company. An encounter with a man-eating tiger convinces him to return to his hometown and run the family compound which his father established before dying alone. The last novel we will discuss today is Narcopolis, first published in 2012 and written by Jeet Thayil. It is the debut novel of Jeet Thayil, set in the Bombay of 1970s, shows its underbelly of opium dens. It draws on Thayil's own experience as a drug addict, which he calls the lost 20 years of my life. The main story is about Rashid, who is not only an opium addict, but he manages a den at Shuklaji Street where drug addicts, pimps, prostitutes, they all come and engage in all sort of shady activities. Another major character is Dimple, who is a transgender and forcibly surgically castrated following the death of his mother. Mr. Lee, a Chinese refugee who also had an opium den, he gives shelter to Dimple and protected Dimple until he himself dies. It was using Lee's ancient opium pipes as a bribe that Dimple secured her job at Rashid as a worker. Dimple also acts as a sex worker, and among her many customers include Dom, who is there only to read books to Dimple, and Rumi, who is a married man but dissatisfied with his marriage. He likes to have violent sex with Dimple. 1980s arrive, Rashid is approached by Khalid about transforming his opium den and brothel into a place for new drug, cocaine. Rashid refuses and his place is shut down by corrupt officials. Dom decides to leave Bombay and Dimple begs him to take her with him. However, Dom leaves her at a rehabilitation center. Rashid's son Jamal takes over the business, transforming the den into a hub of drug sales. Rashid, who is now fat and old, regrets for not having gone with cocaine at the den when he had the chance. In 2014, Dom once again visits Rashid, who tells him that everyone except him is dead. In the end, Dom is smoking pipe. It is hinted that the whole story may be a dream of Dom. Okay, dear friends, that's all for today. We will be soon back with another module on major Indian English novels. Till then, keep watching, keep supporting, keep suggesting what can make these videos and channel more worthy of your time. Thank you, friends.